The universe has always been about balance. The force flows through all living things, binding the galaxy together in an eternal dance between light and dark, creation and destruction, hope and despair. For millennia, this cosmic energy has shaped destinies, toppled empires, and guided heroes through impossible odds. The Jedi spoke of balance. The Sith craved dominance. But neither philosophy, neither side of this ancient power had ever encountered something that existed completely outside their paradigm, something that required no force, no midi-chlorians, no mystical energy whatsoever, something that was simply, impossibly, absolutely strong, and that something was currently tumbling through hyperspace with no idea where he was going. Saitama had been fighting another monster back on Earth, something with too many tentacles and an annoying monologue about conquering humanity, when he'd thrown what he thought was a casual punch, just enough to end the fight quickly so he could catch the weekend sale at the supermarket. But this time something strange happened. His fist connected with empty air as the monster dodged, and the force of the punch just kept going. Reality itself seemed to crack like glass, blue and white light spiraling outward in a vortex that swallowed him whole before he could even register surprise. Now he was here, wherever here was. The bald hero floated in the swirling tunnel of hyperspace, his yellow suit and white cape fluttering in non-existent wind as streaking lights rushed past him in all directions. His expression remained characteristically blank, though his internal monologue was slightly more animated than usual. This is weird, Saitama thought, doing a slow barrel roll through the dimensional corridor. Did I punch a hole in space? That's never happened before. I hope I didn't break Earth. I still have coupons that don't expire until next week. The hyperspace tunnel suddenly terminated, spitting him out into real space with all the ceremony of a cosmic hiccup. Saitama emerged above a massive gray wedge-shaped vessel bristling with weapons, his momentum carrying him directly toward its hull. He landed on the surface with a metallic thud that dented the armor plating, standing upright on the side of the ship as if gravity was merely a suggestion he chose to follow. Huh, Saitama observed, looking around at the star-filled void. Space. That's definitely space, but it's not Earth space. The stars are all wrong. Below him, or rather on the hull he was standing on, red lights began flashing. The Imperial Star Destroyer. Relentless had detected the anomaly, an unidentified biological entity appearing from hyperspace without a ship, surviving hard vacuum, and now standing on their starboard hull. The bridge crew scrambled to make sense of sensor readings that made no logical sense. Sir, the entity appears to be humanoid. No visible spacesuit, no ship, no energy signature we can identify. A nervous ensign reported to the Star Destroyer's captain, a stern man named Velik who had served the Empire for 2 decades and thought he'd seen everything. Humanoid? In open space? Impossible. It must be a probe or a droid. Captain Velik leaned forward in his command chair, studying the grainy image on the view screen. The figure appeared to be a bald human in a yellow and white outfit, just standing there, looking around curiously. Sir, it's moving. Saitama had started walking along the hull, peering into viewport windows as he passed them. Stormtroopers inside pressed against the transparasteel in shock as a human face looked in at them from outside in the vacuum of space with an expression of mild curiosity. He knocked on one window. The sound shouldn't have carried through the void, but somehow the metal-on-metal vibration resonated through the hull. This is definitely a spaceship, Saitama concluded. Maybe they can tell me where Earth is. I should ask for directions. On the bridge, Captain Velik made a decision he would soon regret. The entity is clearly some kind of rebel weapon or alien threat. It's breached our hull integrity by its mere presence. Turbo laser batteries. Target the intruder. fire at will. 8 turbo laser turrets rotated to face the small figure on the hull. Green bolts of superheated plasma lanced out, each containing enough energy to vaporize a small building. The bridge crew watched their targeting screens intently. Saitama noticed the green lights pointing at him a split second before they fired. "Oh, are those guns? I should probably..." The turbo laser bolts struck him directly, engulfing his position in a miniature sun of destructive energy. The bridge crew allowed themselves a moment of satisfaction. Then the light faded, and Saitama was still standing there, completely unsinged. His cape fluttered dramatically. He looked down at his suit, checking for damage, then shrugged. "Okay, so that's how they say hello here. Rude. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. May the Force be with you." Saitama bent his knees slightly, then jumped. The force of his leap tore a Saitama-shaped hole clean through the Star Destroyer's hull, depressurizing 3 decks instantly as he launched himself toward what looked like the front of the ship. He figured the people in charge would be at the front. That's how it worked in video games anyway. He crashed through the bridge viewport, transparent steel exploding inward in a shower of crystalline fragments. Atmosphere rushed out into space as emergency bulkheads began slamming shut. Officers were yanked toward the breach, clinging desperately to their consoles. Captain Velik grabbed his command chair as his feet left the deck. Saitama landed in the center of the bridge, apparently unaware that he'd just caused catastrophic decompression. He looked around at the panicking crew, noticed them all floating and gasping, and had a rare moment of self-awareness. "Oh, whoops, I broke the window. My bad." He walked over to the massive hole he'd created, his footsteps somehow finding purchase despite the lack of gravity for everyone else, and simply pressed his palm against the twisted metal. With casual strength, he pushed the damaged section back into rough alignment, then held it there. The atmospheric leak slowed to a whistle, then stopped as emergency sealant foam sprayed automatically around the edges. The surviving bridge crew collapsed to the deck as gravity and pressure normalized. They stared at the bald intruder who had just saved them from the death he'd nearly caused, unsure whether to shoot him or thank him. Saitama raised one hand in an awkward wave. "Hi, sorry about your window. I'm kind of lost. Can you tell me how to get back to Earth? It's a planet, blue and green, has a moon. You probably haven't heard of it." Captain Velik, to his credit, managed to find his voice despite the insanity he'd just witnessed. What are you?" "Just a guy who's a hero for fun," Saitama replied with his characteristic blank expression. "Also, do you have any food? I was supposed to go grocery shopping." The Imperial Star Destroyer, Relentless, transmitted an emergency priority alert across every encrypted channel it had access to. Within minutes, the message reached Imperial Center, Coruscant, and within an hour it sat on the desk of the one man who truly understood that new and unknown threats required immediate, overwhelming response. Darth Vader reviewed the sensor logs from the Relentless 3 times. Each viewing made the data no less impossible. An entity matching human biological signatures had survived turbolaser fire, breached a Star Destroyer's hull with his bare hands, and demonstrated strength that exceeded anything in Imperial records. Captain Velik's report claimed the intruder showed no hostility after his violent entrance, but Vader knew that meant nothing. Power without discipline was chaos. Power without purpose was danger, and this being called himself a hero. "Apology accepted, Captain Velik." Vader's mechanized voice crackled through the comm as he force-choked the incompetent officer from across the galaxy. The captain's death would serve as a reminder to his replacement. Do not lose prisoners who casually tear through Star Destroyers, especially prisoners who were currently eating their way through the ship's entire food storage. On the Relentless, Saitama sat in the mess hall surrounded by empty trays, plates, and confused stormtroopers who'd been assigned to guard him. The assignment felt ridiculous, like being ordered to guard a supernova with a fire extinguisher. But orders were orders. The bald stranger had been polite enough after his explosive entrance, even apologetic about the damage, and had simply asked for food and information about Earth. No one aboard had heard of Earth. The galactic charts showed no world by that name. Whatever planet this Saitama claimed to be from, it wasn't in Imperial space, Republic records, or even the Outer Rim databases. "So you're telling me," Saitama said around a mouthful of what the Empire called paste, but tasted vaguely like chicken, "that this isn't the Milky Way galaxy?" The protocol droid brought in to communicate with him, after 3 interrogation officers had resigned in frustration at his simple, unguarded answers, tilted its head. "I am unfamiliar with that designation. This is the galaxy, sir. There is only one galaxy. Well, satellite galaxies like Rishi Maze exist, but so I'm in a different galaxy." Saitama set down his fork, his expression unchanging but his internal disappointment profound. This was going to make grocery shopping extremely complicated. "How do I get back?" "I do not believe intergalactic travel is possible, sir. Even hyperspace has limits." "Huh." Saitama picked his fork back up. "That's inconvenient." The droid waited for anger, despair, or any normal emotional response to being stranded in an alien galaxy. None came. The human just continued eating, apparently unconcerned that he was trillions of light years from home with no clear path back. This concerned the Empire greatly. In the detention level, technicians were analyzing the hole Saitama had punched through the ship. The metal wasn't melted or vaporized like weapon damage. It was simply gone. Molecular bonds separated with such precise force that the edges were microscopically smooth. Whatever strength this being possessed, it operated on principles that defied their understanding of physics. "We need to contain him," the new captain, Commander Thray, hastily promoted after Velik's unfortunate accident, insisted during an encrypted conference with Imperial High Command. "He's eating us out of supplies and our men are terrified. If he decides to leave, I don't think we can stop him. If he decides to take the ship, I know we can't." The holographic image of a thin, severe admiral flickered in response. "Lord Vader is en route to your position. Your orders are to keep the entity comfortable and contained until his arrival. Do not, I repeat, do not, give him any reason to become hostile. If he truly destroyed your bridge viewport by accident, we cannot afford to see what he does on purpose." Commander Thray swallowed hard. "Understood, sir. And if he asks to leave? Stall him. Offer him tours of the ship, entertainment, more food, whatever keeps him aboard until Lord Vader arrives." Back in the mess hall, Saitama had finished his meal and was now staring at a viewport showing the stars outside. A stormtrooper nervously approached, his armor's internal temperature rising despite the climate control. Sir, is there anything else you require?" Saitama glanced at him. "Do you have manga or video games? I'm getting bored." I don't know what those are, sir." "Figures." Saitama sighed the sigh of a man accustomed to disappointment. "What do people do for fun in this galaxy?" The stormtrooper's mind raced. "Keep him entertained, keep him calm, keep him from punching any more holes in the ship. We have holofilms, entertainment programs. There's a recreation deck on level 7. Sure, I guess." Saitama stood, and every stormtrooper in the room instinctively stepped back. He didn't notice. "Lead the way. This ship is pretty big. I might get lost." As they walked through the corridors, crew members pressed themselves against walls to let Saitama pass. Word had spread throughout the entire vessel about what he'd done, and his casual, almost lazy demeanor somehow made it worse. He looked like someone who could destroy the ship without trying, and he absolutely could. They passed a viewport showing another Star Destroyer maintaining formation nearby. Saitama paused, looking at it with mild interest. Are those common? The Triangle ships. Star Destroyers, sir. Yes, they're the backbone of the Imperial Navy, over 25,000 throughout the galaxy. Huh, they're pretty big. Saitama resumed walking. The Empire must be important if they have that many. The stormtrooper chose his words carefully. The Empire maintains order throughout the galaxy, sir. Peace through strength. By shooting visitors with lasers? Saitama's tone wasn't accusatory, just genuinely curious. You appeared on our hull from nowhere, sir. We had to assume you were a threat. Fair enough, Saitama shrugged. I did punch through your window. We'll call it even. The recreation deck proved disappointing. Imperial military entertainment consisted mainly of propaganda holofilms and tactical simulators. Saitama watched part of a movie about the glorious Empire defeating rebel terrorists, found it boring, and ended up just sitting in a chair staring at the ceiling. This was how Darth Vader found him 6 hours later. The Dark Lord's arrival sent ripples of fear through the Relentless, like a shockwave. Crew members straightened to attention. Officers checked their uniforms nervously. Stormtroopers gripped their weapons tighter, knowing full well that Lord Vader's presence meant someone was about to have a very bad day. Vader strode through the corridors with mechanical precision, his cape billowing behind him, his breathing apparatus filling the air with its rhythmic wheeze. Officers parted before him like water before a ship's prow. He reached the recreation deck and the doors slid open. Saitama was lying on a bench now, one leg dangling off the side, apparently napping. He cracked one eye open as the doors hissed shut behind Vader, sealing them in together. "Oh, hey," Saitama said, not bothering to sit up. "You look important. Are you in charge? Can you tell me how to get home?" Vader extended his senses through the Force, reaching out to read this being's thoughts, emotions, intentions. The Force showed him nothing. Not a void or absence, just nothing, as if Saitama didn't exist in the Force at all. No midi-chlorians, no presence, no connection to the cosmic energy that flowed through all living things. Impossible. All life existed in the Force. Yet this being was alive, breathing, thinking, and completely invisible to Vader's most reliable sense. "You are not from this galaxy," Vader stated, his voice deep and mechanical. "Yeah, I figured that out." Saitama sat up slowly, stretching. "Punched a hole in reality by accident. Now I'm stuck here. It's been a weird day." "You possess considerable strength, I guess." Saitama looked at Vader's armor and mask with vague interest. "That suit looks uncomfortable. Do you have to wear it all the time?" No one, absolutely no one, spoke to Darth Vader with such casual disregard. Not Imperial officers, not rebel leaders facing execution, not even the Emperor treated him with such utter lack of fear or respect. It wasn't defiance. It was simple, genuine indifference, as if Vader was just another person standing in front of him. The Dark Lord's hand clenched. He reached out with the Force, attempting to choke this insolent being into understanding the gravity of his situation. Nothing happened. Saitama just sat there, waiting politely for a response to his question about the suit. Vader tried again, pouring more power into the Force choke, enough strength to crush a man's throat from across a room. Still nothing. Saitama tilted his head slightly, as if sensing that something should be happening but wasn't. "Are you okay?" Saitama asked. "You're breathing pretty hard. Is the suit malfunctioning?" For the first time in years, Darth Vader experienced something he'd almost forgotten: uncertainty. This being was immune to the Force. Completely, utterly immune. Which meant Vader's greatest power, his connection to the dark side, was useless. Which meant if this came to physical confrontation, Vader would be fighting on equal terms for the first time since his transformation, except nothing about this would be equal. The being had punched through a Star Destroyer, had walked in hard vacuum, had tanked turbo laser fire without a scratch. Vader made a calculated decision. The Empire could use someone of your abilities. Join us, and you will want for nothing: power, resources, purpose. Saitama considered this. Do you have a way to get me back to my galaxy? That's really all I want. That and maybe some decent food. The paste stuff here is pretty bland. There is no known method of intergalactic travel, Vader admitted. However, if such a method exists, the Empire has the resources to discover it. Serve the Emperor, and we will dedicate our best scientists to finding your home. Serve the Emperor? Saitama scratched his head. Like a job. I already have a job. I'm a hero. It doesn't pay anything, but I'm used to that. A hero? Vader's tone made the word sound like an insult. What makes you believe you are a hero? I help people who are in trouble, Saitama said simply. Fight monsters, save people, that kind of thing. It's what I do. Then help the galaxy. The Rebel Alliance threatens peace and order. Terrorists who would plunge trillions into chaos and war. Your power could end this conflict in days. Saitama stood up, finally giving Vader his full attention. Despite being shorter than the Sith Lord, something about his posture made him seem impossible to diminish. You shot at me the second I showed up, Saitama said, his tone still casual but his eyes slightly sharper. That doesn't seem very peaceful, and this ship is full of people who look scared all the time. That doesn't seem very orderly. I think I need more information before I pick sides. Vader's hand moved to his lightsaber. Not a threat, not yet, but a statement. You do not have the luxury of neutrality. The Emperor does not tolerate those who refuse to choose. The Emperor can wait until I figure out what's actually going on. Saitama moved toward the door. Thanks for the offer, though. If you find a way home, let me know. I'll be around. You are not dismissed. Saitama stopped, looked back at Vader, and shrugged. I'm not really asking permission. The door opened and he walked out, leaving Darth Vader standing alone in the recreation deck, feeling something he hadn't felt in a very long time. The cold recognition that he just met something he could not control, could not intimidate, and quite possibly could not defeat. The Dark Lord activated his comlink. Alert the Emperor. We have a significant variable, and contact Grand Moff Tarkin. If this being cannot be controlled, the Death Star may need to be involved. The holographic image of Emperor Palpatine flickered in the secure chamber aboard the Relentless, his hooded features barely visible in the blue light. Darth Vader knelt before the projection, a posture of deference that had become automatic over the years, even as his mechanical breathing filled the silence. Rise, Lord Vader, Palpatine commanded, his voice like silk over broken glass. Tell me of this anomaly. Vader stood, hands clasped behind his back. He calls himself Saitama, Master, a being from beyond our galaxy with strength that defies measurement. Turbo laser fire did not harm him. The vacuum of space does not affect him. And he is completely absent from the Force, invisible to all my senses. Invisible to the Force? The Emperor's tone sharpened with interest. Explain. He exists outside of it entirely. When I attempt to perceive him through the Force, I sense nothing. Not a void, not an absence, but as if he simply does not exist in that realm. My abilities have no effect on him whatsoever." Palpatine was silent for a long moment, his gnarled fingers steepled beneath his hood. Fascinating. In all my years of study, Sith holocrons, ancient texts, forbidden knowledge, I have never encountered a being truly beyond the Force's reach. Even the Yuuzhan Vong exist in the Force, merely unable to touch it themselves. But this is unprecedented. He claims to be a hero, Master. He has refused recruitment and expressed desire only to return home. He shows no interest in our conflict. A dangerous thing, unlimited power combined with principled independence. The Emperor's hologram leaned forward slightly. Such beings cannot be allowed to exist outside Imperial control. If the rebellion learns of him, they will stop at nothing to weaponize him against us. One punch from this Saitama could destroy a fleet, could kill us both. We must secure him or eliminate him. Elimination may prove difficult, Vader admitted, the words tasting like failure. Standard weapons are ineffective. I am uncertain whether even a lightsaber would harm him. Then we escalate. Palpatine's tone carried dark amusement. Grand Moff Tarkin's toy was designed to destroy planets, but it serves just as well against singular targets of sufficient threat. If this Saitama cannot be turned, then he must witness the price of defiance. Arrange a demonstration, something that will show him the consequences of remaining neutral while the Empire offers its protection. Vader hesitated, barely a fraction of a second, but present nonetheless. You wish to use the Death Star against him. I wish to use it where he can see. Let him watch Imperial power atomize a world. Let him understand that in this galaxy, strength means nothing without the will to use it absolutely. Either he will recognize the Empire's supremacy and kneel, or he will reveal his true nature as a threat. Either way, we will know how to proceed. As you wish, Master. The hologram flickered out, leaving Vader alone with his thoughts. He had faced Jedi Masters in their prime, hunted down survivors of Order 66, and crushed rebel cells with methodical precision. Yet this bald, unassuming being in a yellow suit made him feel something he'd thought burned away with his body on Mustafar. Doubt. 3 decks above, Saitama was discovering that Imperial food wasn't improving with repeated exposure. He sat in the mess hall again. The guards had given up trying to confine him to any specific area, poking at something that claimed to be meat, but had the texture of rubber. This galaxy has spaceships and laser swords, he muttered to himself, but they can't figure out decent food. That's just sad. A young officer approached, holding a data pad nervously. He'd been assigned as Saitama's liaison, which really meant person we can afford to lose if he gets angry. So far, though, the alien had been frustratingly harmless. Polite, even. Sir, Lord Vader has requested your presence on the bridge. We're being reassigned. Saitama looked up. Where to? The Horus system. We're to rendezvous with the Death Star. Death Star? Saitama's expression didn't change, but he stood. That doesn't sound friendly. It's the Empire's greatest achievement, sir. A battle station the size of a small moon, capable of... The officer paused, choosing his words carefully. Projecting Imperial power on a planetary scale. So, a big space station with big weapons. The biggest, sir, Saitama shrugged. All right, not like I have anywhere else to be. The Relentless entered hyperspace, and within hours emerged in the Horus system, an unremarkable sector with 3 inhabited planets and a population that had expressed unfortunate sympathy toward rebel causes. Planetary Governor Ban had been slow in crushing dissent, lax in enforcing Imperial doctrine, and generally ineffective in maintaining order. The system would serve as an excellent example. The Death Star loomed ahead like a mechanical moon, its surface covered in trenchworks, weapons batteries, and docking bays large enough to swallow entire fleets. Saitama stood at a viewport, looking at it with mild interest. "That's pretty big," he observed. "Indeed," Vader's mechanized voice came from behind him. The Dark Lord had approached silently, a skill wasted on someone who didn't feel intimidated. The Death Star represents ultimate power, a weapon capable of destroying entire planets with a single shot. Saitama glanced back at him. "Why would you need to destroy planets? People live on planets. To maintain order, to ensure compliance, to demonstrate that resistance is futile." Vader moved to stand beside him, both watching the massive battle station grow larger as they approached. The Empire rules a galaxy of trillions. Sometimes harsh examples must be made to prevent billions more from dying in pointless rebellions. "That sounds like villain logic," Saitama said without accusation, just stating an observation. Back home, the guys who wanted to rule through fear were usually the bad guys. "Your home had the luxury of heroes," Vader replied. "This galaxy has only those with power and those without. The Force flows through all things, granting some the strength to lead while others must follow. It is the natural order." "I don't really follow anyone," Saitama said, "and I don't have this Force thing you keep mentioning. I'm just strong because I trained really hard." Vader turned to face him directly. "Trained? You claim your power comes from mere training?" "Yeah. 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every day for 3 years. Also ate 3 meals a day. Banana for breakfast was important." The Sith Lord stared at him through his mask, trying to determine if this was mockery or genuine insanity. The being's expression remained completely neutral, suggesting he actually believed his absurd explanation. "That is impossible. Such training would not grant a fraction of your demonstrated abilities." "Worked for me," Saitama shrugged. "Lost all my hair, though. That part wasn't great." Before Vader could formulate a response to this ludicrous claim, Commander Thray's voice echoed through the ship's comm system. "Lord Vader, we've received docking clearance from the Death Star. Grand Moff Tarkin requests your presence in the command center immediately." "Acknowledged." Vader gestured toward the door. "You will accompany me. The Grand Moff wishes to meet you." "Is he the guy in charge of the Death Star?" "One of the men in charge, yes." "All right." Saitama followed, his cape fluttering behind him in a way that somehow mirrored Vader's, despite the completely different color scheme. The shuttle ride to the Death Star gave Saitama his first close view of the battle station's scale. Entire Star Destroyers looked like toys docked against its surface. Thousands of turbo-laser batteries tracked their approach, each one capable of vaporizing their shuttle in a single shot. TIE fighters swarmed around the station in patrol patterns, their twin ion engines screaming silently in the void. Saitama pressed his face against the viewport like a child at an aquarium. "Do people live in there? Seems like a waste to make something that big just for weapons." "Over 1 million Imperial personnel staff the Death Star," Vader explained. "Gunners, technicians, stormtroopers, officers. It is a fully operational military installation." "Huh. Must be expensive." "The cost is irrelevant. Power is priceless." They docked in one of the countless hangars where a full squadron of stormtroopers stood at attention. Not to honor Vader's arrival, that was expected, but clearly to make an impression on the visitor. Saitama barely glanced at them, too busy looking at the hangar's ceiling. "This is all just the parking garage?" he asked. "One of 300 similar bays," Vader confirmed. "Man. And I thought the Hero Association headquarters was overbuilt." Grand Moff Tarkin waited in the command center, a tall, thin man with gaunt features and eyes like chipped ice. He stood with perfect posture before the massive viewport that showed the planet Horus III below, a blue-green world of approximately 4 billion inhabitants. Behind him, dozens of officers monitored stations controlling enough firepower to sterilize a continent. Lord Vader, Tarkin greeted, his crisp imperial accent carrying authority despite Vader's obvious superiority in rank. And this must be our guest from beyond the stars. Welcome to the Death Star, Mr. Saitama, was it? Just Saitama is fine. The hero looked around the command center with his usual blank expression. Nice place. Very gray. Tarkin's eye twitched slightly, the only indication of his annoyance at such casual disrespect. I'm told you possess abilities that defy conventional understanding, that you survived in open space and withstood turbo laser fire without injury. Yeah, that happened. Wasn't a big deal. Not a big deal, Tarkin repeated slowly. I see. Tell me, Saitama, do you understand what the Empire is? What we represent? Vader said you guys maintain order through fear and big weapons. Also something about the Force and natural hierarchy. Saitama gestured vaguely at the viewport. You've got a lot of ships and people, so I guess you're pretty powerful here. We are not pretty powerful, Tarkin corrected, his voice sharp. We are absolutely powerful, and absolute power must be respected, or it serves no purpose. He turned to the weapons officer at the primary firing console. Commander, target the planetary capital of Horus III. Prepare to demonstrate our main weapon. Saitama's eyes widened slightly, the most dramatic expression anyone had seen from him yet. Wait, what? You're going to shoot the planet? I am going to destroy it entirely, Tarkin said calmly. To show you, and anyone else who questions Imperial authority, what happens to those who refuse to submit. Horus III has harbored rebel sympathizers. They have ignored warnings and resisted re-education. They have chosen their fate. There are people down there. 4,200,000,000 at last census, Tarkin confirmed, all of whom will serve as a lesson about the price of defiance. Saitama's fists clenched. You can't just kill 4 billion people because they didn't do what you wanted. I assure you I can. Commander, commence primary ignition. The command center's lights dimmed as colossal amounts of power flowed from the Death Star's reactor toward the super laser focusing array. On screens throughout the room, engineers confirmed firing solutions and energy levels. Alarms chirped as safety interlocks disengaged. The massive dish at the station's equator began to glow with building green light. Saitama looked at Vader. You're going to let this happen? This is the price of order, Vader replied, his tone suggesting that he'd made peace with such necessities long ago. The Empire must demonstrate strength or chaos follows. Stand by, the weapons officer announced. Super laser charged to full power. Firing in 10 seconds. Saitama looked at the planet below. A peaceful, living world full of people going about their lives, unaware that a weapon of unimaginable power was about to erase them from existence. He thought of all the times he'd saved people back home, often from monsters who wanted to destroy cities or conquer the world. He'd always been bored by how easy it was. This wasn't easy. This was 4 billion lives, and the only one who could save them was standing in a space station surrounded by people who thought mass murder was a valid political strategy. 5 seconds. Stop, Saitama said. 3 seconds. I said stop. Saitama's voice rose slightly, still not yelling but carrying an edge of seriousness that had been absent until now. Fire, Tarkin commanded. The Death Star's super laser lanced out, 8 converging beams of annihilation merging into a single pillar of green destruction that could atomize a planet. The weapons officer confirmed firing sequence complete. Impact would occur in 2.3 seconds. Saitama moved. He didn't think, didn't plan, just reacted with the same instinct that had saved countless people back home. One moment he was standing in the command center. The next, he'd punched through the viewport, scattering transfer steel and causing instant decompression, launched himself into space and accelerated toward the super laser beam at impossible speed. The entire command center crew grabbed onto consoles as atmosphere rushed out. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, sealing the breach. Tarkin gripped a railing, his composure cracking for the first time in years as he watched a bald man in a yellow suit fly through space directly into the path of the Death Star's primary weapon. Saitama intercepted the super laser beam halfway to the planet. The energy struck him head-on, enough power to destroy a world, to crack a planet's crust and boil its oceans, and simply stopped. The beam splashed against Saitama's outstretched palms like water against stone, dispersing in every direction but forward. Green light filled space, creating a nimbus around his small form as he held back annihilation through sheer physical presence. "Impossible," Tarkin whispered. "Impossible," Vader echoed, watching through the Force as something completely absent from it defied their ultimate weapon. Saitama gritted his teeth. This actually hurt a little. Not much. Barely a sunburn's worth. But it was the most he'd felt from any attack since he'd completed his training. The beam pushed against him, trying to continue toward the planet, but he pushed back harder. "Not happening," Saitama grunted, then shoved forward. The super laser beam reversed direction. Every alarm in the Death Star's command center screamed at once as their own weapon came back at them, reflected by an impossible force that shouldn't exist. Tarkin's face went pale. Officers abandoned their stations. Vader reached out with the Force, preparing to shield himself from the explosion. The reflected beam struck the Death Star's super laser dish dead center, overloading the focusing array in a cascade of detonations that tore through the station's equatorial band. Secondary explosions rippled outward as power couplings overloaded. Turbo laser batteries detonated, and entire sections vented into space. The Death Star didn't explode. Its reactor was too well shielded for that. But its primary weapon was completely destroyed, along with 17 decks and over 3,000 personnel. Saitama floated in space, looking at the damaged battle station with an expression that might have been satisfaction. He'd saved the planet. That felt good. Felt like being a hero again, even in this weird galaxy. Then he realized he was still in space and had no idea how to get back inside. He also wasn't entirely sure which ship he'd been on before or where Vader had gone. The whole punching through windows and flying into space plan had been instinctive, not thought through. "Crap," Saitama said to himself. "I should have asked for directions first." The Rebel Alliance's intelligence network was extensive, built from stolen Imperial codes, defected officers, and deep cover agents who risked execution daily. When Grand Moff Tarkin's Death Star suffered catastrophic damage to its primary weapon in the Horus system, with no recorded engagement, no Rebel attack fleet, and no explanation that made any sense, every Rebel cell from Coruscant to the Outer Rim wanted answers. They found them in a 3-second clip captured by a freighter's sensor array, a humanoid figure intercepting and reflecting a super laser beam with his bare hands. Mon Mothma watched the recording for the 5th time in the secure command room aboard Home 1, the Rebel Alliance's primary command ship. Around her, military leaders and intelligence officers argued in heated whispers. Admiral Akbar's large eyes focused intently on the holographic replay. General Dodonna stroked his beard thoughtfully. Princess Leia Organa of Alderaan stood with arms crossed, her expression caught between disbelief and desperate hope. "It's a hoax," insisted General Draven, head of Rebel intelligence. Imperial disinformation designed to make us waste resources chasing a phantom superweapon. The Death Star's damage is confirmed by 6 independent sources, Akbar replied in his distinctive gravelly voice. 17 decks destroyed, primary weapon offline, over 3,000 Imperial casualties. This is no disinformation. Then it's a malfunction, Draven countered. Their weapon backfired. The Empire would never admit to such catastrophic failure, so they're fabricating a cover story about an invincible being who can stop planet killers with his bare hands. Look at the recording again, Leia said quietly, her voice cutting through the debate. That's not fabricated. Watch the energy dispersal pattern when the beam strikes him. The physics are wrong for any known shielding technology, but they're consistent with the beam actually hitting something solid and being deflected. Mon Mothma raised a hand and the room fell silent. The rebel leader was a woman of grace and steel, someone who had risked everything to oppose the Empire when surrender would have been far easier. She'd seen hope die 1,000 times and learned to recognize it when it appeared unexpectedly. "What do we know about this being?" she asked. "Almost nothing," admitted Draven. "Imperial communications are in chaos. What we've intercepted mentions an entity named Saitama, who appeared in Imperial custody approximately 40 hours ago. Origin unknown. Classification, extreme threat. Lord Vader personally involved." If Vader's personally involved, the Empire considers this a serious matter, Dodonna observed. They don't waste the Emperor's right hand on minor threats. According to intercepted transmissions, this Saitama destroyed the Death Star's weapon to prevent Tarkin from destroying Horus III, Leia added, pulling up additional intelligence on the tactical display. He saved 4 billion lives, then apparently got himself stranded in space after the counterattack. A defender of innocence who opposes the Empire's brutality. Mon Mothma leaned forward. Where is he now? Unknown. Imperial search parties are scouring the Horus system. They've deployed everything. TIE fighters, probe droids, sensor nets. They want him back, badly. Then we need to find him first. Mon Mothma's decision carried the weight of command that had sustained the rebellion through impossible odds. If this being is real, if he truly possesses the power to stand against the Empire's ultimate weapon, he could change everything. General Dodonna, prepare a reconnaissance team. Admiral Akbar, calculate hyperspace routes to the Horus system that avoid Imperial interdiction. With respect, Mon Mothma, Draven interjected, we're talking about diverting significant resources to chase what might be Imperial propaganda, or at best, a neutral party with no interest in our cause. We're talking about hope. General, Leia's voice carried passion that came from years of watching planets burn and friends die. For years, we've fought with barely adequate ships, stolen weapons, and courage. We've lost so many people. If there's even a chance this Saitama could help us, not as a weapon, but as an ally, we have to try. The princess is correct, Akbar agreed. The Death Star represents existential threat. With its primary weapon functional, it could destroy our bases one by one, atomize any planet that shelters us. If this being damaged it once, perhaps he could destroy it entirely. Mon Mothma nodded slowly. We're not seeking a weapon to aim at our enemies. We're seeking someone who demonstrated the one thing the Empire fears, the willingness to stand against overwhelming power in defense of the innocent. That makes him a potential ally, whether he knows it yet or not. And if he refuses, Draven pressed, if he wants nothing to do with our war, then we respect his choice and ask only that he remember we offered friendship, not exploitation. Mon Mothma stood, her presence commanding despite her slight frame. We are not the Empire. We don't force people to our cause, but we can show him what we fight for and why. Prepare the mission, and may the Force be with us all." Meanwhile, 30,000 kilometers from the Death Star, Saitama had found a solution to his navigation problem. He just started flying in a random direction until he spotted a ship, then flagged it down by waving. The ship, a bulk freighter carrying grain to the Death Star, had nearly crashed trying to process the sight of a human floating in vacuum, waving cheerfully. They'd pulled him aboard through an airlock, and he'd thanked them politely for the ride. "You're the one who damaged the Death Star," the freighter's captain stammered, a heavy-set human whose hands shook as he poured Saitama a cup of kaf. The crew of 12 stood in their common room, staring at their guest like he was a thermal detonator with an uncertain timer. "Yeah, sorry about that." Saitama sipped the kaf, which was terrible, but at least hot. They were going to blow up a planet. Seemed wrong to let that happen. Wrong? You. 4 billion people. The captain struggled for words. You saved 4 billion people. It wasn't that hard, Saitama shrugged. The beam was pretty bright, though. Kind of hurt my eyes. Hurt your eyes, the captain repeated numbly. The Death Star's super laser hurt your eyes. Right, of course. Why wouldn't it? The ship's communications officer, a young woman named Sarah, approached cautiously. "Sir, we're receiving multiple hails from Imperial vessels. They're demanding we transmit passenger manifests and prepare for boarding." "They're looking for him," the captain said unnecessarily. "If they find him on our ship, we're all dead. Harboring a fugitive who damaged Imperial property, they'll space the lot of us and sell our ship for scrap." Saitama set down his kaf. "I don't want to get you guys in trouble. I'll leave." "Leave? We're in the middle of space. Even if you can survive out there, which apparently you can, where would you go?" "I'll figure something out." Saitama stood, heading toward the airlock. "Thanks for the ride and the terrible coffee." "Wait." Sarah pulled up a star chart on her datapad, making a decision that would probably get her executed, but felt right anyway. "If you're running from the Empire, there are places that help people like that. Rebel sympathizers, underground networks. I know someone on Chazwa Station. It's neutral territory, mixed population, enough chaos that Imperial patrols can't monitor everything." "Rebels?" Saitama paused. "Are they the good guys?" The crew exchanged glances. Speaking positively about the rebellion could mean death, but this being had just saved 4 billion lives from Imperial murder. "They fight the Empire," the captain said carefully. "Whether that makes them good guys probably depends on who you ask, but they don't go around destroying planets for political points, I can tell you that much." Saitama considered this. The Empire had shot at him immediately, tried to recruit him through intimidation, and then attempted to blow up a planet while he watched. The rebels, whoever they were, couldn't be worse than that. "All right. How do I get to this Chazwa station?" "We can drop you nearby," Sarah said quickly, already plotting coordinates. "Tell the Empire we jettisoned cargo and you must have drifted away. They'll scan for you, won't find anything, and hopefully leave us alone." "You'd lie to the Empire for me?" Saitama asked, genuinely confused. "You don't even know me." "You saved 4 billion people," the captain said simply. Against that, lying to some Imperial inspector doesn't seem like a big moral compromise. 3 hours later, the freighter dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Chazwa system. Saitama stood at the airlock again, preparing for another spacewalk. "The station is that way," Sarah pointed toward a distant cluster of lights orbiting a gas giant. "About 200,000 kilometers. Can you actually fly that far?" "Probably. I've never really tested my limits," Saitama cracked his knuckles. "How long would it normally take?" "In a ship, maybe 20 minutes. "I'll try to beat that." He jumped out of the airlock, and the crew watched in amazement as he simply flew. No propulsion, no visible energy expenditure, just self-directed motion through hard vacuum, accelerating toward the distant station at speeds that made their sensor readings glitch. "May the Force preserve us," the captain whispered. "We just helped something that might be a god." "Or a hero," Sarah replied, smiling despite the danger they'd just courted. "Maybe this galaxy still has those." Chazwa Station was exactly what Sarah had described. Neutral chaos. Built from decommissioned starship hulls welded together in orbit, it served as a trading post, rest stop, and occasional haven for people avoiding Imperial attention. Smugglers docked next to legitimate merchants. Bounty hunters drank beside their targets. Information brokers sold secrets to whoever paid, and station security maintained just enough order to keep the credits flowing. Saitama drifted up to an external airlock, knocked politely, and waited. A maintenance droid scanned him through the viewport, registered biological readings that made no sense, and opened the door anyway. The station's AI had seen stranger things. Inside, Saitama found himself in a busy corridor filled with dozens of species: humans, Twi'leks, Rhodians, Wookiees, and creatures he didn't recognize. Everyone wore mismatched clothing, carried weapons openly, and minded their own business with practiced indifference. "This looks more normal," Saitama observed, drawing a few curious glances from his yellow suit and cape, but nothing more. In a place like Chazwa, weird was standard. He wandered through the station, looking for food. The freighter crew had given him ration bars, but they'd been even worse than Imperial Nutripaste, and found a cantina called the Broken Hyperdrive. Inside, a mix of patrons drank, gambled, and conducted business with the casual criminality of those who'd given up, pretending to follow any government's laws. Saitama sat at the bar. The bartender, a four-armed basilisk with scars suggesting a violent past, looked him over. "What'll it be? Do you have real food? Like actual ingredients cooked together?" "Kitchen serves roasted nuna, Corellian stew, and fried tip-yip. Nothing fancy, but it's real." "I'll take all three." "All three dishes?" "Yeah. And whatever you have for drinks that isn't terrible." The basilisk grinned, showing too many teeth. "I like your style, Baldy. Coming right up." While Saitama waited for his food, a holo-news broadcast played on screens throughout the cantina. The Empire's official story about the Death Star incident was predictably dishonest. Minor malfunction in primary weapon system, casualties minimal, repairs underway. All personnel are reminded that spreading rumors or unverified information constitutes treason. But underneath the broadcast on independent news feeds that the Empire couldn't fully control, the truth spread. Something had stopped the Death Star. Something powerful enough to reflect its weapon. Something the Empire was desperately searching for. And in a booth at the back of the cantina, a rebel intelligence operative named Cassian Andor watched the bald man in the yellow suit order enough food for 3 people and wondered if the Force had finally decided to give the rebellion a chance. He activated his encrypted comlink. "Home 1, this is Fulcrum 7. I found him." Cassian Andor had survived 5 years as a rebel intelligence operative by trusting his instincts and never making assumptions. He'd infiltrated Imperial facilities, assassinated targets that threatened the Alliance, and extracted information from people who thought they'd never talk. He was good at reading people, their tells, their fears, their loyalties. The bald man eating his 3rd plate of food gave him absolutely nothing to read. Saitama ate with single-minded focus, occasionally pausing to comment, "This is pretty good," or "way better than the paste stuff," to the bartender. He showed no awareness of the dozen sets of eyes tracking him throughout the cantina, no concern that every bounty hunter in the sector would soon know his location, no apparent understanding that he was the most wanted being in the galaxy. Cassian approached carefully, hands visible, posture non-threatening. "Mind if I sit?" Saitama glanced up, mouth full of roasted Nuna. "Sure." The spy sat across from him, noting the complete absence of defensive positioning. Either this Saitama was phenomenally confident or dangerously naive. Given what Cassian had seen in the intercepted recordings, probably the former. "You're new to Chazwa," Cassian observed. "Not a question. First time here. First time in this galaxy, actually." Saitama swallowed, reaching for his drink. "Everything's pretty weird." "I imagine it is. My name is Cassian. I work for people who are interested in meeting you." "The rebels?" Cassian's training kept his expression neutral despite the surprise. "What makes you think that?" "The freighter crew said rebels help people who don't like the Empire." "You're being all careful and secretive, which means you're probably not supposed to be here. And you have that look people get when they want to recruit me for something." Saitama took another bite. Hero Association back home had the same look. "You're perceptive." "Not really. People just aren't as complicated as they think they are." Cassian allowed himself a small smile. "Fair enough. Yes, I represent the Rebel Alliance. We've been looking for you since the Horus incident. What you did, stopping the Death Star, saving those people, that took incredible courage. It wasn't that hard. 4 billion people would disagree." Cassian leaned forward slightly. "The Empire is searching everywhere for you. Lord Vader has mobilized entire fleets. They want you back under their control, and they don't handle defiance well. You need allies, protection, resources. The Alliance can provide all of that." Saitama set down his fork, giving Cassian his full attention for the first time. "In exchange for what?" "Your help. The Death Star is the Empire's ultimate weapon, capable of destroying entire worlds to enforce obedience. You damaged it once. We believe you could destroy it entirely." "Probably," Saitama admitted. "It's just a big machine. Machines break if you hit them hard enough." "Then help us. Join the rebellion. Fight against tyranny and oppression. You've already proven you care about innocent lives. The Alliance fights for those same lives across the entire galaxy." Saitama was quiet for a moment, considering. Back home, he'd been a hero because it felt right, not because anyone asked him to be. He'd never joined the Hero Association officially. Too much bureaucracy, too many rules. He just fought monsters when they showed up and went home afterward. "I'm not really a joiner," Saitama said finally. "Every time someone wants me to join their organization, it comes with politics and expectations and meetings. I just want to help people and go home." "The Alliance isn't about politics." "Everything's about politics," Saitama interrupted gently. "The Empire said they maintained order. You say you fight tyranny. But I've been in this galaxy for 2 days, and everyone wants me to pick a side in a war I don't understand." He pushed his empty plate away. "I stopped the Empire from blowing up that planet because it was the right thing to do. That doesn't mean I'm ready to sign up for your army." Cassian felt his carefully planned recruitment pitch crumbling. "Then what will you do?" "The Empire won't stop looking for you. Eventually they'll find you, and next time they might not try to recruit. They might just try to kill you. Let them try." Saitama's tone wasn't arrogant, just factual. "I'm pretty hard to kill. Even you must have limits." "Maybe. Haven't found them yet." Before Cassian could respond, the cantina's entrance exploded inward. Stormtroopers poured through the breach, blaster rifles raised, red targeting beams cutting through the suddenly screaming crowd. Behind them strode an Imperial officer in a black uniform, flanked by 2 figures in dark armor carrying lightsaber pikes. Inquisitors, Force-sensitive hunters trained to kill Jedi survivors. "Saitama," the officer's voice boomed through a helmet speaker. "You are under arrest by order of Emperor Palpatine. Surrender immediately, or everyone in this station dies. The cantina erupted in chaos. Patrons dove for cover, drew weapons, or ran for side exits. The basilisk bartender produced a shotgun from under the bar. Cassian's hand moved to his blaster. Saitama just sighed. I literally just got my food. He stood slowly, walking toward the Imperials with his hands in his pockets. Stormtroopers aimed at his head, center mass, every vital area. The Inquisitors ignited their lightsabers, crimson blades spinning in defensive patterns. "You're coming with us," the officer commanded. "Resistance will result in immediate execution of all witnesses." "You guys really like threatening innocent people," Saitama observed. "Is that like part of your training?" "How to be as villainous as possible." "Fire." 20 blaster rifles opened up simultaneously. Crimson bolts filled the air, each one capable of punching through armor plate. Saitama stood in the middle of the barrage, bolts splashing harmlessly off his body like water droplets. His expression didn't change. The shooting stopped. Stormtroopers stared at their weapons, wondering if they'd somehow all malfunctioned simultaneously. "My turn?" Saitama asked politely. He moved faster than their eyes could track, closing the distance to the nearest stormtrooper in a fraction of a second. His punch was carefully controlled, just enough force to send the soldier flying backward through the wall without killing him. Then another. Then 3 more. Within 5 seconds, every stormtrooper in the cantina had been launched into unconsciousness. The Inquisitors attacked together. Force-enhanced speed, allowing them to actually perceive Saitama's movement. Their lightsaber pikes whirled in complex patterns, seeking any opening. The blade struck Saitama's suit, his cape, his bald head. Nothing happened. The plasma blades, capable of cutting through blast doors, slid off him like he was made of frictionless material. "Those are pretty cool swords," Saitama said, catching one pike between 2 fingers. "Do they come in different colors?" The Inquisitor tried to pull his weapon free. It didn't budge. Saitama's grip was absolute. "Let me try something." Saitama grabbed the lightsaber blade itself with his other hand. His palm glowed from the heat but didn't burn. He squeezed and the plasma blade flickered, destabilized. "Interesting. It's like super hot gas contained in a magnetic field." "Pretty clever." The second Inquisitor thrust at Saitama's back, blade aimed for his spine. Saitama caught that one too, now holding both lightsaber pikes casually while their wielders struggled uselessly. "You guys are with the Empire, right? Can you tell your boss something for me?" Saitama looked at them with his characteristically bored expression. "I don't want to join anyone's side. I just want to find a way home. If the Empire keeps sending people to attack me or threaten innocent people, I'm going to keep stopping them. Same goes for the rebels if they try to force me into their war. I'm neutral. Got it?" He released the lightsabers and flicked both Inquisitors in the forehead, gentle taps that nonetheless sent them crashing through the ceiling into the deck above. The Imperial officer, the only enemy still conscious, fumbled for his sidearm. Saitama walked over and plucked it from his hand. "This is a pretty light gun," Saitama commented, examining the blaster pistol. "Does it shoot lasers too?" "Plasma bolts," the officer stammered, his training completely abandoned in the face of something his academy education had never prepared him for. "Cool," Saitama handed it back. "Tell Vader I appreciate the job offer, but I'm not interested. Also, if anyone else tries to blow up planets while I'm around, I'll stop them. That includes the Empire." He turned back to the bar, where his 4th plate of food waited. The officer stood frozen, unable to process that he'd been dismissed rather than killed. Cassian approached cautiously, his own blaster still holstered. It would have been pointless anyway. That was restrained. "I don't like hurting people if I don't have to," Saitama said, sitting back down. Those stormtrooper guys were just following orders. Not really their fault, their boss is evil. You just neutralized an Imperial strike team in seconds and you're calling it restrained? I didn't kill anyone. That's pretty restrained for me. Saitama resumed eating. Back home, the monsters I fought usually exploded when I hit them. I'm getting better at pulling my punches. The cantina slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, patrons emerging from cover and examining the unconscious Imperials with amazement. The basilisk bartender laughed, a deep booming sound. Drinks are on the house for the man who just gave the Empire a black eye in my establishment. Cheers erupted. People who'd been terrified moments ago now celebrated, raising glasses to the bald stranger who'd made the Empire look foolish. Cassian watched it happen, seeing opportunity crystallize. You say you don't want to pick sides, Cassian said quietly, but by stopping the Empire's aggression, you've already picked one. The only question is whether you'll do it alone or with people who share your principles. Saitama chewed thoughtfully. The rebels don't blow up planets? Never. We fight to protect people, not terrorize them. And you don't force people to join you? Everyone in the Alliance chose to be there. No conscription, no threats. Just people who decided the Empire's tyranny had to end. Huh. Saitama finished his plate, considering his situation. He was stuck in a galaxy far from home with no clear way back. The Empire kept attacking him and threatening innocents. The rebels seemed less evil, but he didn't know them well enough to commit. I'll make you a deal, Saitama said. I'll help the rebels sometimes if they're doing something that seems right. Protecting people, fighting the Empire when they're being evil, that kind of thing. But I'm not joining your army and I'm not taking orders. I do what I think is right when I think it's right. Take it or leave it. Cassian smiled. It wasn't the total commitment Mon Mothma had hoped for, but it was infinitely better than nothing. An ally who would help when it mattered, who could face the Empire's worst weapons without fear. That changed everything. I think the Alliance can work with that arrangement. Cassian extended his hand. Welcome aboard, Saitama. Officially unofficial member of the rebellion. Saitama shook his hand, his grip carefully controlled to avoid crushing bones. Cool. Do you guys have better food than the Empire? Because that would really help your recruitment. Cassian laughed despite himself. I'll see what I can do. Outside the cantina, the Imperial officer stumbled to his feet and activated his emergency beacon. Within minutes, his report would reach Darth Vader. The target had been located, engaged, and had decimated the strike team without visible effort. The target had also declared neutrality and threatened to oppose any faction that harmed innocents. The officer's final note would be the most troubling. Subject appears genuinely unaware of his own importance. Recommends psychological warfare rather than direct confrontation. Subject responds to moral appeals, not threats. Vader would read this report and make a decision that would reshape the galaxy's power balance. If Saitama could not be controlled, perhaps he could be maneuvered. And if the rebellion thought they'd gained an ally, they would learn that allies could be liabilities when properly manipulated. The game had evolved. And Saitama, the strongest being in the galaxy, remained blissfully unaware that he'd just become the most valuable piece on a board he didn't know he was playing on. Mon Mothma's holographic form flickered in the secure chamber Cassian had rented on Chazwa Station, her expression thoughtful as she listened to his report. Behind her, partially visible in the blue projection, Admiral Akbar and Princess Leia observed the conversation. So he agreed to help, but not to join, Mon Mothma summarized. An unusual arrangement. He's an unusual person, Cassian replied. I've never met anyone so powerful who cares so little about power. He just wants to help people and find his way home. A noble goal, Leia said, her voice carrying through the calm. But can we trust him? What if the Empire offers him something we can't? They already tried. They offered him resources, technology, purpose. He turned them down because they were going to destroy a planet. Cassian glanced toward the cantina where Saitama was still eating, now on his 6th plate while telling the bartender about something called manga. I don't think he can be bought. His moral code seems absolute, almost childishly simple. Help people, stop bad guys, don't hurt innocents. Childishly simple, Akbar repeated, his gravelly voice amused. In my experience, the simplest principles are the hardest to corrupt. Mon Mothma nodded slowly. Very well. We'll respect his terms. Cassian, stay with him. Build trust. When we need his help for something critical, we'll ask, not demand. In the meantime, learn everything you can about his capabilities and limitations. Understood, though I'm not sure he has limitations. Everyone has limitations, Leia said firmly. We just need to find his before the Empire does. The hologram flickered out, leaving Cassian alone with the knowledge that he'd just been assigned to befriend and monitor the most dangerous being in the galaxy. He returned to the cantina to find Saitama arm wrestling a Wookiee and winning effortlessly, while the massive alien roared in frustration and strained with both arms. You're really strong, Saitama said cheerfully. Back home, most people couldn't even move my arm. The Wookiee bellowed something that the cantina's translator rendered as, "What are you?" "Just a guy who trained really hard." Saitama released his grip, and the Wookiee's arms slammed down to the table. Good match, though. Cassian sat down, ordering a drink he didn't intend to finish. My superiors accepted your terms. You help when you want, how you want. No strings attached. Cool. Saitama looked genuinely pleased. So what do the rebels actually do, besides fight the Empire, I mean? We run supplies to planets the Empire has blockaded, rescue prisoners from Imperial detention centers, sabotage weapons facilities, gather intelligence on their military movements. Cassian sipped his drink. Mostly we try to survive long enough to make a difference. Sounds hard. It is. We lose people every day. The Empire has unlimited resources, millions of stormtroopers, thousands of star destroyers, planetary garrisons on every major world. We have courage and hope. Cassian's voice carried the weariness of someone who'd seen too many friends die. Before you damaged the Death Star, we weren't sure we even had a chance. That weapon could have destroyed every rebel base in the galaxy, one by one. Saitama frowned. That seems like a huge tactical advantage. Why would they build just one? If I was trying to control a galaxy, I'd build lots of planet-destroying weapons. Make them smaller, faster, harder to attack. Cassian blinked. That's actually a terrifying strategic assessment. I used to play strategy games on my phone. You always want multiple win conditions, not one big thing your opponent can target. Please never share that tactical analysis with the Empire. Obviously not. They shoot at me. Saitama stood, stretching. So, what now? Do you guys have a base somewhere? Or do you just kind of float around in space? We have mobile command ships and hidden bases throughout the Outer Rim. I can take you to Home 1, our primary command ship, if you want to meet the leadership. Will there be better food? Cassian smiled. I can guarantee the food will be better than Imperial NutriPaste, at least. Good enough. Let's go. They left Chazwa Station on Cassian's ship, a modified U-wing that had seen better days but flew reliably. Saitama spent the journey to the rendezvous point looking out the viewport at Hyperspace, fascinated by the swirling blue tunnel. This is how you travel between stars, he asked, by punching through normal space into this weird dimension? Essentially, yes. Hyperspace allows faster-than-light travel by accessing an alternate dimension with different physical laws. I punched through dimensions by accident and ended up here. Saitama mused. Maybe if I punch through hyperspace, I'd get back home. Cassian's hands tightened on the controls. Please don't punch through hyperspace while we're in it. The results would be catastrophic. Yeah, probably. Saitama settled back in his seat. I'll wait until we're stopped. The rendezvous with Home One occurred in an empty system on the edge of known space, far from Imperial patrol routes. The massive Mon Calamari cruiser hung in the void like a coral reef, transformed into a warship, its organic curves contrasting sharply with Imperial geometric brutality. That's a pretty cool ship, Saitama observed as they approached. Looks like something alive. Mon Calamari design philosophy. They build ships the way they build underwater cities. Flowing, adaptive, beautiful. Cassian guided them toward the main hangar. The Empire builds weapons. The Mon Calamari build homes that can fight when necessary. They docked without incident, though Cassian noticed increased security throughout the hangar. Marines in full combat gear, technicians checking weapon systems, the general tension of people preparing for something significant. Something was happening. Mon Mothma met them personally in the briefing room, flanked by Admiral Akbar, General Dodonna, Princess Leia, and a dozen other senior Alliance members. Saitama walked in, still wearing his yellow suit and white cape, looking around with mild curiosity. Welcome aboard, Home One, Mon Mothma greeted, her voice warm but formal. I'm Mon Mothma, leader of the Alliance to restore the Republic. Thank you for agreeing to speak with us. Sure, nice to meet you. Saitama looked at the others. You're all in charge. We share leadership responsibilities, Leia explained. The Alliance isn't a dictatorship. We make decisions collectively. That sounds slow. Sometimes, Akbar admitted. But it prevents any one person from becoming what we fight against. Fair point. Saitama noticed the tactical displays showing ship movements and Imperial positions. Are you guys about to do something dangerous? The leaders exchanged glances. General Dodonna stepped forward, his weathered face serious. We've received intelligence about an Imperial convoy transporting kyber crystals, the rare minerals used to power the Death Star superlaser. The convoy is traveling through the Savarine system in 3 days, relatively lightly guarded because the Empire believes the route is secret. You want to steal the crystals so they can't fix the weapon, Saitama concluded. Exactly. Without kyber crystals, the Death Star remains crippled. But the intelligence also indicates the convoy will have Star Destroyer escort and likely TIE fighter squadrons. It's a dangerous operation. How dangerous? We're committing most of our fleet, Admiral Akbar said grimly. If we fail, we lose ships we can't replace, and people we can't afford to lose. If we don't try, the Empire repairs the Death Star within months and continues destroying worlds. Mon Mothma turned to face Saitama directly. We're not asking you to fight this battle for us. But if you were there, if your presence forced the Empire to withdraw rather than risk engaging you, we could complete the mission with minimal casualties on both sides. You want me to be a deterrent, Saitama said. Show up, look scary, make them leave. Essentially, yes. We've seen how the Empire reacts to you. Confusion, fear, retreat. If Vader himself might hesitate to engage you directly, regular Imperial forces certainly will. Saitama considered this. It wasn't fighting exactly, more like standing nearby and being intimidating. He'd done similar things back home. Sometimes just showing up at a disaster site was enough to make villains surrender without a fight. What if they don't retreat? He asked. What if they attack anyway? Then we fight, Leia said simply. But we'd rather not lose people unnecessarily if your presence can prevent bloodshed. Okay, I'll go. Saitama's decision was characteristically quick. When do we leave? Relief washed across the room like a visible wave. Mon Mothma smiled, genuinely smiled, something Cassian rarely saw. Thank you, Saitama. Your help means more than you know. Just don't ask me to blow up planets or hurt innocent people, Saitama said. I'm helping because you seem like you're trying to do the right thing, but I'm watching. We wouldn't want it any other way, Mon Mothma assured him. The briefing continued for another hour, covering tactical details, fleet positioning, and contingency plans. Saitama listened with surprising attentiveness, occasionally asking questions that revealed a sharper strategic mind than his casual demeanor suggested. If the Empire knows you're coming, will they send more ships? He asked. Possible, Dodonna admitted, but they'd need to pull them from other sectors, which creates opportunities elsewhere. So either they commit more forces and weaken other areas, or they let you take the crystals. Saitama nodded. Pretty good plan. What if they just destroy the convoy themselves to keep you from getting the crystals? The room went quiet. No one had considered that option. The Empire wouldn't destroy their own resources, Leia said, but her voice carried uncertainty. They tried to destroy a planet full of their own citizens, Saitama pointed out. Seems like they care more about control than resources. He's right, Akbar said slowly. We need contingency plans if the Empire decides denial is preferable to letting us capture the convoy. The briefing extended another 2 hours as they adjusted tactics based on Saitama's simple but devastating question. Cassian watched the strongest being in the galaxy inadvertently teach experienced military leaders to think more ruthlessly, to consider what desperate enemies might do. Finally, Mon Mothma called an end to the planning session. We have 3 days to prepare. Saitama, you're welcome to stay aboard Home 1 until then. We'll provide quarters, food, anything you need. Do you have entertainment, games, books, that kind of thing? We have a recreation area with holofilms and datapad libraries, Leia offered. I'll show you. As the leaders dispersed to prepare their forces, Leia guided Saitama through Home 1's corridors. Crew members stopped to stare at the bald man in yellow, word having spread that this was the being who'd stopped the Death Star. Some saluted, others just watched in awe. They're treating you like a hero, Leia observed. I'm just a guy helping out, Saitama replied. Heroes are supposed to help people. It's not special. In this galaxy, it's very special. Leia's voice carried sadness. The Empire has made heroism dangerous. People who stand up get killed. Planets that resist get destroyed. You're the first person I've seen who can stand against them without fear. Fear's pretty pointless when nothing can hurt you, Saitama said. Must be harder for you guys, being brave when you can actually die. Leia stopped walking, turning to look at him with new respect. That's remarkably insightful. I watch a lot of hero shows back home. The best heroes are always the ones who are scared but do it anyway. Saitama shrugged. I'm not brave. I just can't lose. Don't sell yourself short. You could have stayed neutral, protected yourself, avoided this entire conflict. Instead, you're helping people you just met fight a war that isn't yours. Leia smiled. That's heroism, whether you recognize it or not. They reached the recreation area, where off-duty personnel played strategy games and watched entertainment programs. Saitama found a datapad with comics, not manga, but close enough, and settled in to read, apparently content. Leia returned to the command center where Mon Mothma and Cassian waited. What do you think? Mon Mothma asked. I think we've found something the Emperor fears, Leia said quietly. And I think Saitama has no idea how important he's become. The Savarine system hung on the edge of known space like a forgotten jewel, its asteroid fields rich with minerals, but too remote for major Imperial investment. The perfect place for a secret convoy route or an ambush. Darth Vader stood aboard the bridge of his personal Star Destroyer, the Executor, studying tactical displays with growing certainty. The rebellion would come. Imperial intelligence had leaked the convoy route through carefully compromised channels, ensuring rebel spies would find information that looked genuine because it was genuine. The Kyber crystals were real. The lightly defended convoy was real. The trap was also real. Admiral Kendall, Vader addressed the ship's commanding officer. Status of our forces. 12 Star Destroyers positioned in adjacent systems, ready to jump on your command. 6 TIE fighter wings are deployed throughout the asteroid field, powered down to avoid detection. The convoy itself has 4 Star Destroyers in escort, enough to appear legitimate without seeming like a trap. And the primary weapon. The Executor's experimental super laser battery is fully operational, Lord Vader. Not as powerful as the Death Star, but sufficient to cripple or destroy capital ships. Admiral Kendall hesitated. Sir, if the target appears, the conventional weapons may prove ineffective. They will, Vader confirmed, which is why we have alternatives. On a separate screen, reports filtered in from Imperial intelligence. The rebel fleet had departed their rendezvous point. Fleet composition matched expectations. 2 Mon Calamari cruisers, multiple corvettes and frigates, various support craft. Estimated time to Savareen, 4 hours. What the reports didn't mention, but Vader knew with certainty, was that Saitama would be with them. The being who existed outside the Force, who had humiliated the Empire's ultimate weapon, who represented a threat Vader couldn't counter through conventional means. The Emperor's instructions had been explicit. Lord Vader, you will not engage this Saitama directly. He has proven immune to Force abilities and physical weapons alike. Instead, you will demonstrate the consequences of opposing the Empire. If he values innocent life, show him what happens when his interference prolongs this war. Break his spirit, and his body becomes irrelevant. Vader understood. The being's weakness wasn't physical, it was moral. He cared about casualties, about innocence, about preventing harm. That compassion could be weaponized. The convoy proceeded according to schedule, freighters hauling Kyber crystals under heavy guard. Aboard the rebel command ship Home 1, Admiral Akbar watched sensor displays intently. Convoy detected at coordinates provided by intelligence. 4 Star Destroyers in escort. Standard TIE fighter screen. No sign of additional Imperial forces. Mon Mothma stood beside him, Leia and General Dodonna flanking her. They'd committed everything to this operation. If the Empire had set a trap, the Alliance might not survive it. Saitama, are you ready? Leia spoke into the comm channel connected to the modified transport ship carrying him. Yeah, I guess. Saitama's voice crackled through the speaker. Still not sure why you need me to stand nearby and look scary, but I'm here. Your presence will save lives, Mon Mothma assured him. When the Imperials see you, they'll withdraw rather than risk engagement. If you say so. The rebel fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, capital ships spreading out to engage the convoy escorts, while smaller craft moved to board the freighters. It was a textbook operation, executed with the precision of people who'd conducted dozens of similar raids. Then everything went wrong. The 4 Star Destroyers guarding the convoy didn't retreat. They opened fire immediately, turbo lasers raking across rebel shields. Simultaneously, 12 more Star Destroyers emerged from hyperspace in a perfect encirclement, cutting off retreat vectors. TIE fighters swarmed from the asteroid field like angry insects, hundreds of twin-ion engine fighters filling the void. It's a trap, Akbar's voice boomed across the comm channels. All ships, defensive formation Alpha 7, protect the cruisers. The rebel fleet reacted with desperate speed, smaller ships forming screens while capital ships oriented their heaviest shields toward the most dangerous threats. Turbo laser fire filled space with deadly green light, ship shields flaring as they absorbed impacts. Aboard Home One's bridge, Leia grabbed a comm unit. "Saitama, we need you. They're slaughtering us." Saitama had been floating in his transport ship, watching the stars through the viewport. When the battle erupted, his expression shifted from bored to focused. "Okay, where do you want me?" "The Star Destroyers. If you can disable their weapons, our ships can escape." "Got it." The transport's pilot, a nervous Sulustan named Nien Nunb, watched in horror as his passenger simply opened the airlock and jumped out into the middle of a space battle. Saitama flew through the chaos like a missile with perfect maneuverability, dodging turbo laser fire by accident as he focused on the nearest Star Destroyer. TIE fighters swarmed toward him, recognizing the target from Imperial briefings. Dozens of fighters opened fire, filling his flight path with laser fire. He flew through it like rain, completely unbothered. "That's definitely him," a TIE pilot reported to his squadron leader. "Target matches description, weapons ineffective. Withdraw to secondary positions. Let Lord Vader handle this." Saitama reached the Star Destroyer and landed on its hull, looking for important-looking parts to break. He settled on the massive turbo laser batteries and started methodically punching through them, each strike destroying emplacements that represented millions of credits of Imperial engineering. Aboard the Executor, Vader watched this unfold with cold calculation. "Activate the contingency." Admiral Kendall transmitted the order. "All ships, execute Protocol Omega. Target the freighters." The 4 Star Destroyers that had been guarding the convoy suddenly turned their weapons on the very ships they were protecting. Turbo lasers fired point-blank into freighter hulls, ripping through their relatively light armor. The Kyber crystal containers ruptured, and while the crystals themselves couldn't explode, the ships carrying them certainly could. 3 freighters detonated in rapid succession, their drives overloading in cascading fireballs that consumed the 4th. The Kyber crystals scattered through space, some destroyed by the heat, others drifting uselessly among the debris. Saitama stopped mid-punch, staring at the explosions. The Empire had just destroyed its own ships rather than let the rebels capture them. "Why would they?" he started to say. Then the real attack began. The 16 Star Destroyers, no longer needed to guard a convoy that no longer existed, turned their full firepower on the rebel fleet. Not scattered harassment fire, but coordinated volleys designed to overwhelm shields through sheer volume. Rebel corvettes started dying, their shields collapsing under sustained assault. "All ships retreat," Akbar ordered. "Prepare emergency hyperspace jumps." But the Imperials had planned for this. Interdiction fields activated throughout the system, gravity well projectors preventing hyperspace escapes. The rebels were trapped in a kill zone with forces that outnumbered them 5 to 1. Saitama flew toward the closest rebel ship taking fire, a Corellian corvette whose shields were failing. He positioned himself between the ship and the attacking Star Destroyer, blocking turbo laser bolts with his body. The crew inside stared through viewports at the impossible sight of a bald man in yellow shielding their entire ship. But there were dozens of rebel ships and only one Saitama. He couldn't protect them all. On Home One, Leia watched her friends die. Ships she'd flown with, crews she'd shared meals with, people who'd believed in the Alliance enough to risk everything, all being systematically destroyed while Saitama tried desperately to shield individual vessels. "This is my fault," Mon Mothma whispered, her composure cracking. "I led them into this. I believed intelligence we should have verified." "It's Vader's fault," Leia corrected, her voice hard. He's using our compassion against us, showing Saitama that helping us gets people killed. She activated the comm to Saitama's channel. You can't save everyone. Focus on the command ships, take out the Star Destroyers, and the smaller craft can escape. Saitama heard her words through the communicator the rebels had given him. She was right. He was trying to protect individual ships when he should be eliminating the threats. He hated this kind of tactical thinking. But this wasn't like fighting monsters back home. This was war, and war required harder choices. He flew directly toward the Executor, Vader's flagship and the largest Star Destroyer in the Imperial fleet. If he destroyed the command ship, maybe the others would retreat. Vader sensed his approach through the Force, or rather sensed the disruption his presence created, a hole in the cosmic fabric approaching at incredible speed. Activate the experimental weapon, Vader commanded. Target the being. Sir, that weapon is designed for capital ships, the power requirements. Now. The Executor's bridge shuddered as power flowed into the experimental super laser battery, a miniaturized version of the Death Star's weapon, less powerful but more rapidly rechargeable. The weapon had never been tested in combat, but Vader's analysis suggested it might succeed where conventional weapons had failed, not because it could destroy Saitama, but because it could force a choice. The super laser fired, a beam of green annihilation lancing out toward Saitama. He saw it coming, braced himself, and took the hit directly. The beam struck him like a tsunami of energy, pushing him back through space but not harming him. Then the beam shifted aim. Instead of maintaining focus on Saitama, it swept across space toward a cluster of rebel corvettes trying to regroup. The beam would cut through them like paper, killing thousands. Saitama understood the play immediately. They weren't trying to kill him. They were making him choose between protecting himself and protecting others. He flew faster than he'd ever flown in this galaxy, racing the beam to the rebel ships. He caught up just as it was about to strike, positioning himself between the weapon and its targets. The super laser beam hammered into him, pushing him backward as he strained to hold position. "Can't let it through," Saitama grunted, his feet, despite being in zero gravity, somehow finding purchase against nothing as he pushed back against the energy. On the Executor, Vader watched with satisfaction. Maintain fire. Rotate targets. Every time he moves to protect one ship, aim at another. It was a perfect trap. Saitama was powerful enough to withstand the weapon indefinitely, but not powerful enough to be everywhere at once. Every second he spent blocking the super laser was a second the conventional weapons slaughtered more rebels. The being would exhaust himself trying to save everyone, or he would have to watch people die knowing he couldn't stop it. Either way, his spirit would break, and Emperor Palpatine would have his weapon, not willing, but traumatized into submission through guilt. Saitama held the beam for 10 seconds, 20, 30. His suit started to smoke from the sustained energy. Not damaged, but heated beyond reasonable tolerance. Still, he held, protecting the ships behind him. Then he had a different idea. Instead of just blocking the beam, he grabbed it, actually grabbed the energy itself with both hands, and started pulling. His muscles strained against physics that shouldn't allow this, but Saitama had never been good at understanding limitations. The beam stretched, its cohesion destabilizing. "What is he doing?" Admiral Kendall whispered. Vader's eyes widened behind his mask. Saitama yanked with all his strength, and the super laser beam tore free from its focusing array like a rope being snapped. The energy backlashed into the Executor's weapon system, overloading conduits and triggering catastrophic failures throughout the weapons grid. Every turbo laser battery on the Executor's port side exploded simultaneously. The Executor's port side erupted in a cascade of explosions, atmosphere venting from dozens of breached sections as the weapon's grid overload rippled through the massive Star Destroyer's superstructure. Damage control klaxons wailed throughout the ship, and crew members scrambled to seal bulkheads and route emergency power. Darth Vader stood unmoved on the bridge, his breathing apparatus the only sound as officers shouted damage reports. The Dark Lord reached out through the Force, sensing the battle's flow, feeling the currents of fear and death that surrounded them. And at the center of it all, that strange absence. Saitama, the being who existed outside the cosmic order, Vader had spent decades mastering. "Status," Vader demanded. "Port weapons grid completely destroyed, Lord Vader. Hull breaches on decks 17 through 34. Casualties estimated at 400. Admiral Kendall's voice remained steady despite his fear. "The experimental superlaser is offline. Reactor conduits ruptured. Repairs will take weeks. Acceptable losses. Continue the attack with conventional weapons. Focus fire on the rebel capital ships. Ignore the being." Saitama floated in space near the Executor's damaged hull, staring at the destruction he'd caused. 400 people dead. He'd been trying to save rebels, but he'd killed Imperials in the process. They'd been attacking, yes, but they were still people, still soldiers following orders from superiors they probably feared. His communicator crackled. "Saitama, the interdiction fields are failing." Leia's voice carried desperate hope. "You damaged their flagship enough that they're rerouting power from secondary systems. We can escape if—" "Negative," Admiral Akbar's voice cut through. "3 of our corvettes are disabled, crews evacuating into life pods. If we jump to hyperspace now, we abandon them to Imperial capture. They'll be tortured for information, then executed." Mon Mothma's voice joined the channel, carrying the weight of impossible decisions. "All command personnel, report losses." The responses came in, each one a knife. "Redemption destroyed, all hands lost." "Freedom's Herald crippled, attempting to reach life pods." "Liberator's engines offline, dead in space." "Defiance has hull breaches, abandoning ship." Hundreds dead, thousands more about to be captured, and the Imperials showed no signs of accepting surrender. They were systematically destroying disabled ships, executing escape pods with TIE fighter strafing runs. Saitama watched a TIE fighter squadron fire on a cluster of life pods, the small escape craft exploding in silent flowers of flame. People who'd already surrendered, already lost their ship, being murdered in cold blood. Something in him went very quiet. Back on Earth, Saitama had fought monsters, criminals, and disasters with a kind of detached efficiency. He was bored most of the time, going through the motions of heroism because it was the right thing to do. Nothing challenged him. Nothing made him feel anything except vague frustration at how easy it all was. This was different. This wasn't a monster threatening a city. This was systematic murder dressed up as military strategy. This was powerful people killing weaker people because they could, because it sent a message, because cruelty was policy. And Saitama realized, with the clarity that comes from seeing something fundamentally wrong, that he was really, genuinely angry. Not battle rage, not shouting or dramatic proclamations, just cold, focused anger at the injustice of watching hundreds of people die because one side had bigger weapons and fewer morals. "Okay," Saitama said quietly to himself, "no more holding back." He flew directly toward the nearest Star Destroyer, not the Executor, but one of the support vessels slaughtering disabled rebel ships. He didn't bother with the hull or weapons batteries this time. Instead, he flew underneath the massive vessel, planted both hands against its ventral surface, and pushed. The entire Star Destroyer, 1,600 meters long, weighing millions of tons, lifted. Its engines screamed in protest as they suddenly fought against an impossible upward force. On the bridge, the captain grabbed his command chair as the deck tilted at a 30-degree angle. What's happening? Gravity generators offline? Structural failure? Sir, something is pushing us. All thruster control lost. Saitama flew upward, carrying the Star Destroyer like a waiter with an oversized tray. He flew it away from the battle zone, away from the rebel fleet, accelerating until the ship's inertial dampeners struggled to compensate. Crew members stumbled and fell as their vessel was hijacked by something their tactical computers couldn't even register as a threat. When he'd put sufficient distance between this ship and the battle, Saitama stopped. The Star Destroyer hung in space, engines still running but unable to overcome the force holding it in place. "This ship is done fighting," Saitama announced over every frequency, broadcasting to both Imperial and Rebel forces. "Anyone who keeps killing people who've surrendered gets the same treatment. I'm not asking anymore. I'm telling you, stop." He released the Star Destroyer and flew back toward the battle at speeds that made hyperspace look pedestrian. Aboard the Executor, Vader felt a disturbance, not in the Force, but in the very fabric of the battle. The tactical situation had shifted in a way his decades of military experience couldn't predict. This being wasn't following any rules of engagement, any logical doctrine. He was simply making ships stop working through overwhelming physical presence. "All vessels, weapons tight," Vader commanded. "Cease fire on escape pods and disabled vessels. Focus defensive posture only." "Sir?" Admiral Kendall looked confused. "We have them surrounded. If we maintain pressure, we maintain nothing if every ship in our fleet is physically removed from battle one at a time." Vader's mechanical voice carried absolute certainty. "This being has become emotionally invested. He will not stop until we cease hostilities or until he has disabled every ship we have. Our numerical advantage means nothing if he can neutralize it sequentially." The Imperial fleet reluctantly held fire, weapons tracking rebel ships but not firing. Saitama arrived back at the battle zone, positioned himself between the two fleets, and waited. His expression had lost its usual boredom. Now he just looked tired and disappointed. "The fighting stops now," Saitama broadcast again. "Both sides. Rebels, get your people out of those life pods and go home. Empire, if you shoot at them while they're leaving, I start breaking your ships. Permanently." Mon Mothma's voice came through the rebel channel. Private this time. "Saitama, they'll just hunt us down later. We can't trust Imperial mercy." "You're not trusting them. You're trusting me." Saitama's tone left no room for argument. "I'll make sure you get away safely, but this battle is over. Too many people have died already." Leia watched the tactical display, seeing the impossible standoff. One being holding two entire fleets hostage through sheer physical dominance. "Mon Mothma, I think he means it, and I think Vader believes him." The rebel leader made her decision. "All ships, recover life pods and prepare for emergency hyperspace jumps. Medical teams to all vessels with casualties. Move quickly but carefully. We're leaving." Over the next 30 minutes, rebel ships methodically collected their escape pods and survivors, while Saitama floated in the middle of the battlefield, arms crossed, staring down 16 Star Destroyers. Every time an Imperial weapons officer got twitchy and tried to acquire a firing solution, Saitama would look directly at their ship, and they'd hurriedly disengage targeting. The disabled rebel ships couldn't be saved. Their crews evacuated, but the vessels themselves were too damaged to tow. Mon Mothma authorized self-destruct sequences to prevent Imperial salvage. Finally, the rebel fleet was ready. Interdiction fields had failed when Saitama destroyed the Executor's power distribution, leaving hyperspace lanes open. One by one, rebel ships accelerated away and vanished into hyperspace, blue tunnels swallowing them to safety. Saitama waited until the last rebel vessel had jumped before addressing the Imperial fleet one final time. "You tried to use me to hurt them," he said, his voice broadcasting across all channels. Set up a trap, destroyed your own ships, killed your own people, all to make me feel guilty so I'd be easier to control. His expression was still blank, but something in his tone carried absolute certainty. That was a mistake. I don't care about your empire or your order, but I care about people dying for stupid reasons. If I see you doing this again, executing prisoners, destroying planets, killing people who've surrendered, I'll do more than disable your ships. I'll start breaking them into pieces small enough that they can't hurt anyone ever again. Vader listened to this declaration with the calm of someone who'd already anticipated it. The Emperor's strategy had failed. Rather than breaking the being's spirit through guilt, they'd simply made him angry enough to take permanent sides. You made him a rebel, Admiral Kendall whispered. No, Vader corrected. We made him something worse, a neutral party with absolute power who now has a reason to oppose us. The Emperor will not be pleased. Saitama turned away from the Imperial fleet and flew off in the direction the rebels had gone, not bothering with hyperspace. He'd just follow their general trajectory and catch up eventually. His cape fluttered dramatically despite the vacuum as he accelerated, leaving the Imperial fleet behind. On Home One emerged from hyperspace at a safe distance. The rebel command staff watched long-range sensors track his approach. He was flying through open space at relativistic speeds, treating the void like a highway. How is he even doing that? General Dodonna asked no one in particular. Propulsion requires mass ejection, thrust against something. He's just willing himself through space. I've stopped trying to understand him, Cassian admitted. Just be grateful he's on our side, or at least not on their side. Leia shook her head slowly. He's not on anyone's side. He's on the side of people not dying unnecessarily. We just happen to align with that principle more often than the Empire does. Then we maintain that alignment, Mon Mothma said firmly. And we remember that Saitama isn't a weapon we aim. He's an ally who expects us to deserve his help. Today he saved hundreds of our people. Tomorrow we prove he was right to do so. Admiral Akbar pulled up casualty reports, his expression grim. Final count: 7 ships destroyed, 14 damaged, 237 confirmed dead, 400 injured. No prisoners taken. Saitama's intervention prevented that, at least. And the mission objective, Dodonna asked. The Kyber crystals. Destroyed. The Empire obliterated their own convoy to deny us the resources. We gained nothing except survival. We gained something more valuable, Leia corrected, pulling up footage from the battle, Saitama carrying a Star Destroyer away from combat, like it weighed nothing, standing between fleets and demanding peace, protecting life pods from execution. We gained proof that the Empire will murder its own people to maintain control. We gained an ally who can force tactical stalemates through sheer presence. And we gained the knowledge that someone in this galaxy can stand against Vader without fear. Mon Mothma nodded slowly. Distribute the footage to every rebel cell, every sympathetic world, every independent system. Let them see what we saw, the Empire's cruelty and one being's courage. We lost this battle, but the war continues. And now it continues with hope. Saitama caught up to the rebel fleet 6 hours later, looking tired but unharmed. They brought him aboard Home One through the main hangar, where off-duty crew had gathered to see the being who'd saved them. As he walked through the corridor toward medical, they wanted to check for injuries despite his protests that he was fine. Spontaneous applause broke out. At first, scattered, then building, until hundreds of rebel personnel were cheering for the bald man in yellow who'd faced down the Empire's fleet and won a battle without killing a single person on either side who wasn't actively trying to kill others. Saitama looked uncomfortable with the attention. I just did what anyone would do, he muttered. "No," Leia said, walking beside him. "You did what heroes do, and in this galaxy that's rarer than you think." The Emperor's throne room on Imperial Center was a study in calculated intimidation, vast emptiness punctuated by shadows, the throne itself positioned to force supplicants to approach across exposed floor while hidden guards watched from alcoves. Darth Vader had walked this chamber thousands of times, yet today each step felt heavier than usual. He knelt before the holographic projection of Emperor Palpatine, who had chosen not to receive this report in person. A telling decision. "Rise, Lord Vader," the Emperor's voice dripped with displeasure. "Your report indicates a significant miscalculation." "Yes, my master. The psychological warfare strategy failed. Rather than breaking his spirit, we solidified his opposition to Imperial methods. And my Death Star remains crippled. My experimental super laser destroyed. 300 Imperial personnel dead, and a rebel fleet that should have been annihilated has escaped with new propaganda." Palpatine's hologram leaned forward. "Tell me, my apprentice, how do you propose we remedy this disaster?" Vader had anticipated this question during the long journey back to Coruscant. Direct confrontation is inadvisable. The being's power exceeds our capacity to counter through conventional or force-based means. However, he operates on a simple moral framework: protect innocence, oppose tyranny, avoid unnecessary death. You suggest we manipulate his heroism. I suggest we make his heroism costly. The being cares about casualties, both rebel and imperial. Every engagement where he intervenes prolongs this war, creates more opportunities for death. If we position conflicts where his interference causes greater harm than his absence, his effectiveness diminishes." Palpatine's withered lips curved into something approximating a smile. "The trolley problem, applied on a galactic scale, force him to choose which innocent populations die by his action or inaction." Intriguing. The Emperor's amusement faded into calculation. But insufficient. This Saitama has made himself a symbol, proof that the Empire can be defied. Symbols are dangerous, Lord Vader. They inspire hope, and hope is the seed of rebellion. Then we create a counter-symbol, someone who can match his strength or appear to. The galaxy must believe the Empire possesses equivalent power. And where do you propose we find such a being? Our Inquisitors are formidable Force users, but they would be obliterated. Our technological supremacy means nothing against someone who treats turbo laser fire as an inconvenience. Vader hesitated, then spoke the thought he'd been considering since Savareen. The Emperor's cloning facilities on Exegol. If we obtained genetic material from this Saitama, a single cell would suffice. We could potentially replicate his physiology. Assuming his power is biological rather than some external force we cannot detect. Palpatine stroked his chin. Still, an avenue worth exploring. Capture him alive, extract what we need, and dispose of him in a manner that demonstrates Imperial power, or turn him into a weapon we control. The hologram flickered. You have 1 month, Lord Vader. Deliver this being, or I will reconsider your usefulness. The threat hung in the air as the hologram vanished. Vader stood alone in the throne room, his breathing apparatus filling the silence. Capture Saitama alive, a being immune to the Force, invulnerable to conventional weapons, and now actively hostile to Imperial operations. 1 month to accomplish the impossible or face the Emperor's wrath. Vader activated his communicator. Admiral Piet, assemble the Death Squadron. We hunt a god, and I will need every resource at my disposal. Meanwhile, aboard Home 1, Saitama was discovering that being a rebel hero came with responsibilities he hadn't anticipated. Mon Mothma had requested his presence at a strategic planning session, and he'd agreed mostly because he had nothing better to do while waiting for someone to figure out how to get him home. The briefing room was packed with military officers, intelligence operatives, and cell leaders from across the Outer Rim. All of them wanted to understand the being who'd stopped the Death Star and fought an entire fleet to a standstill. The Empire has pulled back from 7 sectors in the past 2 weeks, General Draven reported, highlighting regions on the tactical display. They're consolidating forces around core worlds and strategic assets. Intelligence suggests they're preparing for something significant. They're afraid, Princess Leia observed. Vader's fleet limped back to Coruscant, damaged and defeated. The Emperor must be furious, which means they're planning either a devastating counterstrike or a trap. Saitama raised his hand like a student in class. Everyone turned to stare at him. "Yes, Saitama," Mon Mothma prompted gently. "Why don't you just attack the Emperor?" "If he's in charge and he's the problem, wouldn't getting rid of him solve everything?" The room went silent. Officers exchanged uncomfortable glances. General Dodonna cleared his throat. "It's not that simple. The Emperor is protected by the most elite forces in the galaxy, lives on the most heavily defended planet, and is himself a powerful Force user, possibly the most powerful. Assassination attempts have all failed." "But I could do it," Saitama said matter-of-factly. "Fly to his planet, find his house, knock on the door and arrest him, or punch him if he tries to blow up more planets." "You're talking about assassinating a head of state," Draven said carefully. "That's different from defending against military attacks." "Is it? He ordered the Death Star to destroy that planet. He's the one making all these evil decisions." Saitama looked genuinely confused. Back home, if a villain was in charge of an evil organization, you'd stop the villain, and the organization would fall apart. "The Empire wouldn't fall apart," Admiral Akbar explained. "It's too vast, too entrenched. The Emperor dies and Grand Moffs like Tarkin continue enforcing Imperial law. Military governors maintain control. The machine runs itself. Plus," Leia added quietly, "many of us fight to restore democracy, not replace one dictator with another. If we win through assassination, we become what we oppose, people who take power through violence rather than the consent of the governed." Saitama processed this, finding the politics frustratingly complicated. "So you're fighting a war where you could end it quickly but won't because of principles?" "Principles are all that separate us from the Empire," Mon Mothma said firmly. "The moment we abandon them for expedience, we've already lost the moral war even if we win the military one." "Huh." Saitama leaned back in his chair. "That's actually kind of admirable. Stupid, maybe, but admirable." "Thank you," Dodonna said uncertainly. The briefing continued, covering supply routes, intelligence gathering, and potential recruitment in neutral sectors. Saitama listened with half attention, his mind wandering to the fundamental problem. He was stuck in a galaxy at war, with no clear path home, being asked to fight in conflicts that would continue long after any single battle. After the briefing, Cassian found him in the observation deck, staring at the stars through the viewport. "Credit for your thoughts," Cassian offered. "Just thinking about home, about whether I'll ever get back." Saitama's reflection in the transperistile looked tired. "And whether it matters, there are heroes on Earth, other strong people who protect cities and fight monsters. But here, it's just me. If I leave, the Empire keeps doing evil things and the rebels keep dying trying to stop them." "The galaxy existed before you arrived and will continue after you leave," Cassian said diplomatically. "You don't owe us your life." "No, but I owe it to the people the Empire will kill if I'm not here to stop them." Saitama turned away from the viewport. "I'm a hero. That's what I do. I help people. Doesn't matter if it's my galaxy or someone else's. The job doesn't change, even knowing the cost. You saw what happened at Savareen. The Empire made you choose between protecting different people. They'll do it again, worse next time. Yeah, probably. Saitama's expression was characteristically blank, but his eyes held something harder. But that's their evil, not mine. They're the ones making me choose. I'll just have to get faster, stronger, better at protecting everyone at once. You're already the strongest being we've ever encountered. There's always room for improvement. Back home, I broke my limits through training. Maybe I can break them again here. Cassian studied him, seeing the simple determination that made Saitama simultaneously the most powerful and most humble person he'd ever met. The Alliance is lucky to have you, even if you don't officially join. The Alliance has people who fight knowing they can die and do it anyway, Saitama countered. That's way more impressive than being invincible. I just hit things really hard. You guys are actually brave. Before Cassian could respond, the ship's alarms blared. Red lights flashed throughout the corridor as Admiral Akbar's voice echoed through the intercom. All hands to battle stations. Multiple Imperial signatures dropping out of hyperspace. We are under attack. Saitama and Cassian ran toward the bridge, arriving to find organized chaos. The tactical display showed 6 Star Destroyers emerging from hyperspace in attack formation, led by a vessel even larger than the Executor, the Eclipse, one of the Emperor's secret Superstar Destroyer projects, bristling with enough weapons to sterilize a continent. And standing on its bridge, visible through enhanced imaging, was Darth Vader himself. They found us, Mon Mothma breathed. How? Our location was classified. Doesn't matter now, Leia said grimly. We're outgunned 6-1, and the Eclipse alone could destroy us. We need to run. Negative, Akbar reported. They've deployed interdiction fields before we could react. Hyperspace is blocked. This is a deliberate trap. They knew exactly where we'd be. On the view screen, a holographic message activated. Darth Vader's imposing figure materialized, his mechanical breathing filling Home One's bridge. Rebels, you harbor the entity known as Saitama. Surrender him immediately and your fleet will be allowed to evacuate. Refuse, and I will demonstrate why you should fear the dark side more than you trust his protection. Saitama stepped forward before anyone could respond. I'm right here, Vader. You want me? Come get me yourself. Leave these people alone. Admirable courage, Vader's hologram replied, but insufficient. You have proven resistant to conventional warfare. Therefore, I have brought alternatives. The Eclipse's massive hangar bays opened, and dozens of ships emerged. Not TIE fighters, but modified interceptors with unusual configurations. Each one carried a payload that made Saitama's enhanced vision narrow with recognition. They looked like missiles, but the targeting systems were pointed not at military vessels, but at civilian transports. The convoy you see is evacuating Imperial citizens from a contested world, Vader explained. 1,000 transports, each carrying 500 men, women, and children. 500,000 innocents fleeing a war zone. The Dark Lord's voice carried terrible certainty. You will come aboard the Eclipse voluntarily and submit to Imperial custody. If you refuse or resist, I will order those interceptors to destroy every transport. 500,000 deaths because you valued your freedom over their lives. The bridge went silent. Everyone turned to look at Saitama, whose fists had clenched so tightly his knuckles cracked. You're bluffing, Saitama said. Those are your own people. The Empire has billions of citizens. 500,000 is a statistically acceptable loss to secure a strategic asset. Vader's hologram leaned forward. I am not bluffing. I am offering you a choice. Submit, or watch innocents die knowing you could have saved them. Saitama stared at the tactical display, seeing the transports highlighted in blue. Civilian vessels, unarmed, unshielded, completely defenseless. He could destroy the interceptors probably, but not all of them before some reached their targets. He could attack the Eclipse, but Vader would give the order before Saitama reached the bridge. This was the trolley problem the Emperor had designed. Pull the lever and sacrifice himself, or do nothing and people died because of his choice. Don't do it, Leia said quietly. It's a trap. They'll never let us go even if you surrender. They'll kill everyone anyway and take you apart in some laboratory. Maybe, Saitama acknowledged, but maybe not. And I can't risk 500,000 lives on maybe. He walked toward the airlock. Saitama, wait, Mon Mothma started. It's fine. Saitama's voice was calm, accepting. I'm pretty hard to hold prisoner. I'll escape later. But right now, those people need someone to save them, even if it means getting captured. He paused at the airlock door. That's what heroes do, right? Make the hard choice so others don't have to die. The door closed behind him before anyone could respond. Moments later, they watched on sensors as he flew across the void toward the Eclipse, alone and undefended, surrendering himself to save people he'd never met. On the Eclipse's bridge, Vader watched the being approach and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Emperor's strategy had worked. Power meant nothing if it came with exploitable compassion. Prepare the containment field, Vader ordered, and ready the genetic extraction equipment. We finally have our weapon. The Eclipse's detention level was designed to hold Force-sensitive prisoners, walls lined with cortosis that disrupted lightsabers, null field generators that dampened Force abilities, and enough firepower integrated into the ceiling to execute anyone who proved too dangerous to contain. Saitama sat in the center of the cell on a metal bench, looking around with mild interest. This is pretty fancy for a jail cell, he observed. Outside the containment field, a dozen stormtroopers kept weapons trained on him while technicians adjusted equipment. Darth Vader stood beyond the field's perimeter, studying his prisoner with the intensity of someone examining a particularly complex puzzle. You surrendered, Vader stated, willingly sacrificed your freedom for strangers. Yeah, that's kind of the hero job description. Saitama looked at the Dark Lord directly. Are you actually going to let those transports go, or was that a lie? The transports were never in danger. They are indeed evacuating Imperial citizens, but the interceptors carried no weapons, merely sensor equipment designed to appear threatening. Vader's admission carried no shame. You were deceived. Saitama was quiet for a moment, processing this. So I surrendered for nothing. You surrendered because your moral code is predictable and therefore exploitable, a significant tactical weakness. Maybe. Saitama stood, walking to the edge of the containment field. Or maybe you just showed me that the Empire lies, cheats, and threatens innocent people to get what it wants. That's pretty evil, even for you guys. Evil is a matter of perspective. The Empire maintains order across trillions of beings. Your interference threatens that order. Your order kills people who disagree with you. Back home, that's called tyranny, not peace. And your home is lost to you, perhaps permanently. Vader gestured to the technicians. We will attempt to return you there after we understand what makes you unique. Genetic sampling, physiological analysis, perhaps even replication. You could become the template for an army of beings like yourself, loyal to the Emperor. That sounds like a terrible idea. Saitama tested the containment field with one finger. It sparked against his skin, but didn't stop him from pushing through. The field flickered, generators straining against his casual pressure. Also, this cage isn't really working. Vader made a subtle gesture, and knockout gas flooded the cell, enough sedative to drop a rancor. Saitama breathed it in, coughed slightly, and remained standing. "Okay, that's unpleasant. Can you turn that off?" The technicians looked at each other in panic. Every sedative in the Imperial Medical Database was currently being pumped into that cell, and the subject was mildly annoyed at best. Vader ignited his lightsaber, the crimson blade casting red shadows across the detention level. If you cannot be contained peacefully, then you will be contained through injury. Even your regeneration must have limits. I don't actually regenerate. I just don't get hurt. Saitama pushed harder against the containment field, and the generators began to smoke. "Look, I surrendered because you threatened innocent people, but I'm not staying captured. That was never part of the deal. You have no leverage to negotiate." "Sure I do." Saitama smiled, a rare expression that made him look almost friendly. "I'm stronger than everything you've got. Watch." He punched the containment field. The generators exploded, overloaded by a force they weren't designed to absorb. The backup systems tried to engage and immediately failed. Saitama stepped out of the cell, brushing dust off his yellow suit. Stormtroopers opened fire immediately. Blaster bolts splashed harmlessly off him, and he walked through the barrage like someone walking through light rain. He reached the nearest stormtrooper and carefully removed the rifle from his hands. "You guys are just following orders, so I'm not going to hurt you," Saitama said. "But I am leaving. Tell Vader I'm disappointed he lied about the transports. Heroes are supposed to keep their word, and so are villains. Lying makes you boring villains." He bent the rifle into a pretzel shape and handed it back. Vader moved to block the exit, lightsaber raised. "You will not leave this ship." "Yeah, I will." Saitama walked toward him. "You going to try to stop me? We both know how that ends." "I know that you refuse to kill," Vader countered. "A weakness I will exploit. Every second you spend escaping, the Eclipse's weapons prepare to fire on the rebel fleet. Your friends are still within range, interdiction fields still active. Fight me, and they die while you're distracted." Saitama stopped walking. "You'd really kill them just to keep me here?" "I would kill millions to serve the Emperor's will. A few hundred rebels are meaningless. You know what I think?" Saitama's expression returned to its usual blankness, but something in his tone had shifted. "I think you talk a lot about killing people, but it's just talk. You wanted to capture me, not fight me, because you're scared. The Empire's whole thing is fear and power, but you met someone you can't scare and can't overpower? That must be really frustrating for you." Vader's grip on his lightsaber tightened. Through the Force, he reached out, not to attack Saitama directly, but to collapse the corridor's structural supports. Tons of reinforced metal and machinery came crashing down, creating a barrier between Saitama and the exit. Saitama punched through it like tissue paper, creating a Saitama-shaped hole in the debris. He stepped through, turned back to Vader, and shrugged. "See, you can't stop me. Nobody here can. So I'm going to go rescue my friends, and you're going to let me because the alternative is I start breaking your ship in ways that kill people." His voice remained casual, but carried absolute certainty. "I don't want to hurt anyone, but if you force me to choose between letting the Empire win and protecting innocent people, I'll choose protecting people every single time, even if it means doing things I don't want to do." Vader sensed the truth in those words. This being would absolutely destroy the Eclipse if pressed, casualties be damned, because he'd weighed the moral calculus and decided some evils had to be stopped regardless of cost. The certainty was terrifying, the absolute conviction of someone who'd found his line and would not be moved. "Stand down," Vader commanded the stormtroopers. "Let him pass." Saitama looked surprised. "Really? Just like that? You have proven your point. Imprisonment is impossible. Combat is futile. I will report to the Emperor that alternative methods are required." Vader deactivated his lightsaber. "But understand this. The Empire will never stop hunting you. We will find your weaknesses, exploit your compassion, and eventually break you. It is inevitable. Maybe. Or maybe you'll realize that being evil isn't actually a great long-term strategy." Saitama headed toward the hangar bay. "Either way, I'll be around. Try not to blow up any planets while I'm gone." He left Vader standing in the ruined detention level, surrounded by unconscious stormtroopers and smoking equipment, feeling something he hadn't felt since his transformation on Mustafar. Complete, undeniable defeat. Saitama flew back to the rebel fleet through the void, and as he approached, the interdiction fields mysteriously deactivated. The Imperial fleet began withdrawing, jumping to hyperspace without firing a shot. Aboard Home 1, the command staff watched in amazement as their certain death simply left. "Why are they retreating?" General Dodonna asked. "Because Vader knows when he's beaten," Leia said quietly, watching Saitama's approach on sensors. He tried to imprison the unstoppable force and learned what happens when you corner something that doesn't understand the concept of being cornered. Mon Mothma activated the comm. "Saitama, welcome back. Are you injured?" "Nah, I'm fine. They tried to drug me and lock me up, but it didn't really work. Can someone open the hangar?" "I don't want to punch another hole in your ship." Laughter rippled through the bridge, relieved, almost hysterical laughter from people who'd been certain they were about to die. Saitama was retrieved, debriefed, fed. He insisted on food first, debriefing second, and finally allowed to rest. As he lay in the quarters they'd assigned him, staring at the ceiling, he thought about everything that had happened since he'd accidentally punched his way into this galaxy. He'd fought star destroyers, stopped a planet killer, saved hundreds of people, and become a symbol of hope for a rebellion he barely understood. He still had no idea how to get home. Earth felt impossibly far away, and every day in this galaxy pulled him deeper into conflicts that weren't originally his fight. But they were his fight now. Because wherever he was, whatever galaxy he ended up in, there would be people who needed help. Monsters to fight, evil to oppose. That was the job, and he'd accepted it the day he decided to become a hero. Even if he never found his way back to Earth, even if he was stuck here forever, he'd do what he always did. Help people, stop bad guys, and hope that somewhere along the way, someone smarter than him figured out the complicated stuff like politics and strategy. He was just a hero, and that, Saitama decided, was enough. The galaxy had changed in the weeks following Saitama's escape from the eclipse. Rebel cells across the Outer Rim reported increased recruitment, people inspired by footage of the bald hero who'd faced down Vader's fleet and walked away. The Empire responded with heightened brutality, cracking down on dissent with renewed ferocity, but their intimidation tactics rang hollow. Everyone knew that somewhere out there someone could stop them. Saitama himself remained with the Rebel Alliance, not as a soldier but as what Mon Mothma called our conscience, the being who reminded them why they fought and what lines they wouldn't cross even in desperation. He participated in missions when innocents were threatened, but refused operations he considered morally questionable. His presence forced the rebellion to maintain its principles, to remember they were fighting for something better, not just against something worse. The Empire, for its part, had changed tactics. Direct confrontation was abandoned in favor of manipulation and misdirection. They couldn't beat Saitama through force, so they attempted to make his heroism costly, staging conflicts where his intervention would cause collateral damage, positioning battles in populated areas, forcing impossible choices. Sometimes it worked, Sometimes Saitama found creative solutions the Empire hadn't anticipated, but the war continued, as wars do. The Death Star remained under repair, its primary weapon still non-functional. The Emperor grew increasingly obsessed with either controlling or destroying the being who defied him. Vader pursued new strategies with mechanical persistence, and the rebellion fought on, one battle at a time, knowing they had an ally who would never abandon them as long as innocence needed protection. Saitama still searched for a way home. Every planet they visited, every ancient force site they explored, every dimensional anomaly they investigated, he hoped to find the reverse of whatever had brought him here. He missed Earth's familiar mundane problems, missed grocery sales and manga releases, missed a life where being a hero was simple. But until that path home revealed itself, he would remain here, in a galaxy far, far away, filled with people who needed saving and evil that needed stopping. The Empire would continue hunting him. The rebellion would continue needing him, and he would continue being what he'd always been. Just a guy who was a hero for fun, doing his best to help where he could. The Force might not flow through him, but hope did. And in a galaxy ruled by fear, hope was the most powerful weapon of all. Somewhere in the unknown regions, the Emperor studied reports on dimensional theory and Force rituals that might tear reality itself. If Saitama had entered this galaxy through a dimensional breach, then similar breaches could be created and controlled. The being would either serve the Empire willingly, or he would be removed from existence entirely. One way or another, this threat would be neutralized. But the Emperor couldn't know, that threats couldn't be measured just by power levels or strategic calculations. Some threats existed simply because they refused to accept that evil should win. And Saitama, for all his overwhelming strength, was simply someone who'd made that refusal into a lifestyle. The galaxy would learn, slowly and painfully, that absolute power meant nothing if it lacked the will to do what was right. And in the end, the simple, bald hero in the yellow suit would prove that sometimes the strongest force in the universe wasn't the Force at all. It was the choice to stand up and say no when everyone else said nothing could be done. His journey in this strange galaxy had only begun. The Empire would rise again. The rebellion would face darker hours. New threats would emerge from the shadows. But through it all, Saitama would be there, bored, hungry, occasionally confused by politics, but always ready to punch through any obstacle that stood between innocent people and safety. Because that's what heroes do, even in a galaxy far, far away. May the Force be with you. More stories await.